feel like Bollywood movies never prepared me for real life. Reason number one, if a man is able to act, sing, and dance, he is probably not the man I'm looking for. Number two, maybe true love really does only last as a feeling for 2.5 hours. And number three, I don't really need to get my mom and dad's approval right off the bat. Now, it was around Valentine's Day, and I was getting over a breakup. And by breakup, I mean I had a crush on this guy for like 1.5 years. You know when you have a crush on a guy, and you have to like break up from having a crush on that guy, and then you have to explain to your college friends that, yes, you didn't really date, but he was the best public speaker you'd ever frickin' seen? And listen, I competed against him in speech and debate, and I remember my teammates being like, we are done hearing about Nicholas Prabhan. And I was like, fine. And of course I had to get over it because he wasn't interested. Sure, he lived in Ohio, I lived in Detroit, and we didn't have cars, and there was no way this would have made any sense. But sure enough, I had to deal with that rejection. So my teammate Shay, who was one of those theater girls, you know the type who would always get free drinks, and she was not 21 yet. She was the type of girl that when she walked on by, it was like Fleur LaFleur, or whatever it is from Harry Potter. It was like she was a vision. And the problem is, her friends were also actors and actresses, so they were like this crowd of fairies going through the crowd, and I'm the smart one, I guess. So anyway, Shay's like, Arthi, I know you're dealing with Nick rejecting you, but why don't you join us and maybe go out with us for Valentine's Day? I'm like, fine, I guess. And there was this really cute guy who was sitting at the cafeteria with her. Their name was Beau, and Beau had this really sweet smile. And Beau was so curious and wanted to talk about things I wanted to talk about, like Foucauldian philosophy, power relationships, discipline, and punish. So, of course, I took him on my usual first date, which was not my usual first date. It was this date that Shay was setting up for us. We were gonna go out to the Museum of Contemporary Art and Design, and we were gonna go to this dance party. Cool. I can dance. I watch Bollywood films. And so I go to the MoCAD, and it is the time that bad romance is playing. You know, the type of idea that you don't want to be friends with the person you're falling in love with, whatever that's about. And it was the most amazing night. I remember us going to a Coney Island, which is like a diner in the Michigan area. And we were all sitting around milkshakes, eating fries and, burgers after dancing the night away. But Beau didn't want to go home. Beau still wanted to keep talking. And so we started driving around the streets that everyone else is so scared of, but nobody realizes how quiet the streets of Detroit are between the hours of 3 and 5. I remember we went to the top of Motor City Casino, and we looked at the city skyline in front of us, and it was beautiful, and we were like, I think it's time for breakfast. So we go down to one of those breakfast spots, and a couple paid for our meal because they thought that we were just such a cute couple experiencing this Valentine's Day meal. And it was a really, really lovely Valentine's Day. But that's the thing about those feelings, is that they don't always last forever. Sure enough, the summer came along, and I was going on a study abroad trip to South Africa, right? I was gonna go on safari, and I did. I was gonna meet the South African president, and I did. And I was gonna get some really cool jewelry, and I did. But the thing is, I went on all of these adventures, and Beau was at home. Beau was at home in Macomb County, where not a lot of things happen. And it felt like I had shifted, I had transformed in that trip. And Beau had, I wouldn't say stayed the same, but got stuck. Later on, my birthday came around, and we could feel the energy wasn't there. And sure enough, a few weeks later, Beau said we needed to break up. I was so freaking sad, because this was the first time that I had really connected to a person like this. And I mean, Beau was no Nicholas Prapan, but Beau was really, really, really sweet. And I didn't want to be friends. I didn't want to be friends at first. I did not initiate this breakup. This was not my fault. And so I kept my distance, and we would run into each other at parties, and Beau would be with these other girls, and then Beau would be with these other guys, and Beau would start acting a little different. I realized a couple of years later that Beau had stopped because it felt like Beau had to stop. Beau explained to me a little while later that they needed to transition because they were not born into the identity that they were meant to be in. So this became the story of my first girlfriend. And Beau was so, so sweet. Beau was there all those years for me, like helping me through breakups, helping me, because in the end we were meant to be friends, because we weren't meant to be lovers. You see what I mean? You could feel it as the years went on. And Beau transitioned, and Beau came to me, and I realized that I was the only friend who had been there for Beau all those years. So now I'm really happy, because now Beau's beautiful, and Beau's happy, and Beau goes out in public and tells her story, and I'm so proud of her. And Nicholas Prapan, stand up. That's Nick. And sure, this Valentine's Day isn't like that Valentine's Day, but that's the thing about Valentine's Day and relationships that are like this one, the one me and Nick have. Sure, like Bollywood films, they might start off with a spark, or they might go in these directions you don't really expect. But maybe life isn't like a Bollywood film, you guys. Maybe it's just not like that. Maybe it's a lot like a series of episodes that you just put together, and perhaps that's why it's a lot like the X-Files.